You. Me? Yeah, you. Come here. I look around the ruins. There's no one there. Right in front of you. Pick me up. On the floor, a rusty sword rests amid the rubble. I bend down to pick the weapon up. Ah, the sword says in satisfaction. I couldn't tell you how long I've been waiting. I am puzzled. What are you? The voice is bemused. Isn't it obvious? I'm a legendary sword. I look on the brown rust that covers the blade. The sword recognizes my skepticism. Hey, it says defensively, I just need a polish. I hold my peace. Anyways, who are you? I shrug. Askilar. Askilar? Huh. Weird name. Thanks. Well, what are you waiting for? Let's get out of here. But, I say, I came here for treasure. Boy, what do you think is in your hand? I sigh. It isn't common, but to call the rusted thing treasure would be an exaggeration. I suppose I should see if this weapon holds up after sharpening. These ruins are a remnant of a long-dead civilization. Most such places have long since been scavenged for anything of value. I weave through the broken stonework and exit the labyrinth to find my camp. So, bearer, how much treasure did you find in your search? I hold my silence. Don't worry. With me, you're gonna go far. I wonder how much a talking sword would sell for. I have a whetstone in my things. Suddenly the sword grows anxious. Be gentle, it pleads. I shrug and sit down with stone and sword. Ah, ah, ah! It moans as I slide the stone across its surface. Careful, it cries as I rub the rust. It moans and cries, but I grow immune to its complaints. It's easier work than I had expected, considering its apparent state. The silver sheen comes through as I finish my polishing. Well, it says expectantly. I nod my head. Not bad. Not bad? It balks. Pretty good, I say to appease the sword will. The sword glows a subtle orange. So, it says, let's go find your enemies. I haven't fought in ages. I wrap the weapon in cloth. Hey, it exclaims. Don't cover me up. I pay it no mind as I clean up my camp. There's a town nearby that I've done business in before. The trek is uneventful, other than the protest of the sword. You know, it says, other bearers have held me with reverence. You should find some enemies to fight. I don't have any enemies. It's quiet for a second. Well, make some. The town is small, but I know a vendor who deals in recovered treasure. A jangle of chimes rings out as I open the door. A balding man looks up from his desk before looking back down. As I approach, I see the man fiddling with a number of gears. What? He asks without looking up. I begin unfurling the sword. What are we doing here? The sword asks. When the sword is exposed in all its glory, I set it on the desk. The bald man looks up. A sword? You know that's not my business. What's going on, Askilar? The sword sounds confused. This, I say, is a talking sword. What can I get for it? The shop owner raises an eyebrow. Okay, make it talk. I'm surprised by the request. Can't he hear it? The sword is raging. You're trying to sell me? I have never had a bearer try to sell me before, ever except that one time, and that one too. The sword wheel rambles as I look to the vendor. You can't hear it? I ask. The balding man frowns. Take your sword and go. Don't come back trying to pawn crap off on me. Numbly, I collect the weapon and march my way out of the shop. Maybe I've lost my mind. Tough luck, bearer. You're stuck with me. I look at the sword. Why couldn't he hear you? The blade glows. Only the one worthy to wield me can hear me. Anyways, the sword says, surely there is someone or something to fight. Let's go find them. I sigh as I find my next destination. The guild is a seedy place, but it has branch offices in most places. I enter the den of iniquity and make my way to the bounty wall. Eyes follow my every step. An assortment of quests are listed, everything from finding missing pets to extermination. Ooh, the sword will becomes enthused. What are we hunting? I'm surprised the sword can see through, bound as it is in the cloth. Goblins, I say. Oh, come on, the sword protests. Give me a challenge. I ignore the sword and the eyes that follow me as I exit the guild hall. All right, comes the sword. Goblins, not the best, but I'm willing to work with it. The town is relatively big, and it takes some time to find my way to the eastern gate. Dusk is setting in as I enter the woodland. My camp for the night is a simple thing to order. The nocturnal sounds are somehow comforting. I've lived my whole life on the fringes of society, hunting and scavenging where I am able. The bounties have caught my eye on occasion, but I usually stay away from the dangerous stuff. Askilar, I am distracted from my thoughts. What? You should learn cultivation. What do you mean? Well, the sword says, you're my first bearer in, well, it's been a long time. But I want our partnership to last, even though you did try to sell me. Anyways, I'm used to being carried by immortals. You should become one. I chuckle. What? The sword balks. I just think it's funny. Immortals might as well be gods. And you say, just become one. Ha! You find a legendary sword who has seen the rise and fall of the ages, and think that you're like everyone else. I find myself listening carefully to its words. You think you're the first scavenger to come upon me? No, little mortal. There have been many, but I didn't choose them. I chose you, even though you did try to sell me. Why then? It says. I had a feeling. I let out a breath as I roll away from the mysterious weapon. The day follows, and I'm hunting the woodland. Over there, the sword calls out as my eyes find the goblin. A squat, 3-foot tall creature with olive green skin is busy searching for something, probably hunting. In its hand is a wooden club. My sword glows with excitement. Cut that out, I reprimand the blade. The sword mutters its discontent, but ceases to glow. As I creep forward, I hear a twig snap under my foot. Shit, I think as the goblin turns on me. The sword leads me as I parry a strike. The fiend cries out as we trade jabs. A bad feeling stirs in me as I hear something rush through the thicket. Another of the damned things comes charging at me. One was challenging enough, and now I can't help but think I might die. You're screwed, right? The sword asks. Shut up. Oh, relax. Just lend me your body for a second. What do you... Vertigo hits me as I am yanked aside. The sword will flows into my body. I watch as my body fluidly cuts through the first goblin's defenses and decapitates it. The second is upon me, and, faster than it can react, the blade slashes open its gut. The sword carries a mesmerizing orange glow as I return to my body. Finally, the sword cries with joy. I was amazing. You may praise me. I'm torn. I find the idea that the sword can possess me disturbing, but without it I might have died. And I feel like I learned something about swordsmanship from the brief exchange. I pay the sword no mind as I collect the goblin's ears for the bounty. These are only the start as I hunt through the thickets. About every other goblin calls a friend, but after a demonstration with the first pair, my dexterity has improved. See, the sword says, goblins are too easy. We need something that'll challenge us. I put the words out of mind. I just want to stay alive while I earn my pay. The day passes as I collect my bloody prize. As the day begins to wane, I find my camp. As I prepare dinner, the sword rambles. And then I fought the Mao. Mao? I ask over my shoulder. You know, the demon lord. I'm surprised. There hasn't been a demon lord since this age began. Oh, little man, it's cute how naive you are. I feel defensive at its barb. The rabbit I prepare is good, if bland. The sun is gone, and the crackle of my campfire echoes through the trees. Sword, I say. What did you mean by cultivation? The sword glows. In my time among immortals, I've gleaned insights into their arts. The mantra that they meditate on, the preparation of medicinal pills, all sorts of things. A sense of excitement courses through me. Is it possible? How should I begin? Ah, little mortal, it is good that you seek my guidance. Just tell me. Not much for respecting your instructor. Anyways, take up a cross-legged position. Good. Now straighten your spine. I follow the blade's instructions, and I'm soon meditating on nothingness. You see, the sword preaches. Nothing is the start of everything. You must find the void within before you can fill it. My mind goes blank as I try to understand what nothingness is. Every time my mind wanders to something lurking within, I find my center. I don't know how long I've been at it, but I feel myself yawn. I recline on my bedroll. "You're done already?" The sword is confused. Previous bearers could go on for days. I let out a breath. Well, I'm not an immortal. The sword is silent for a moment. "Don't worry, little mortal. This legendary sword will help you ascend." "Thanks," I say, exhausted. The world slips away from me. The dawn comes, and I collect my camp. I'm unhurried, but I'm eager to be on my way. The town is bustling as I enter it. Navigating the streets takes some time as I seek out the guild. Around noon, I arrive. Despite the relative earliness, the patrons sip at ale and spirits. Some say it's safer than water, but I think that's just an excuse to drink. There is a table where bounties are collected. I wait while a big bruiser of a man puts down another man's head. Bounties aren't limited to monsters. Bandit leaders and thieves are also targets. After the big man is paid, he gets up. With a menacing look to me, he shuffles off to the door. The middle-aged woman sets the head in a bag and ties it up. Next, I approach with a bloody bag. "Which bounty did you take on?" she asks patiently. "Goblins, out east." She nods as she begins counting the ears. It's a sizable number, but she shows no sign of being impressed. "Here," she says after counting out the coin. I take my prize and leave her with the bloody bounty. "So," the sword says, "what's my cut?" "Cut?" I echo as I find a table. "Yeah, cut. How much is my share of the reward?" I'm puzzled. "You're a sword." The blade grows indignant. "I never took you for a bigot, bearer. I did just as much work as you. I deserve compensation." My lips make a line. "What would you even spend your share on?" Excitement courses through the sword. "I'd get a nice scabbard, whetstone, and oil." I shrug. It's pretty reasonable. "Okay, I'll shop around." The sword starts to glow until I reprimand it. I can tell by the gazes leveled at me that the momentary glowing was noticed. I put it out of mind as I order my drink and food. The meal is decent and the ale strong. Finished, I find my feet and walk out into the streets. I notice them move as I leave. Those eyes that noticed the sword's light. I'm not accustomed to facing human enemies, but as I walk down a back alley, I unfurl the sword and hold my ground. "Interesting item you got there," a leading man says with avarice. "Maybe you'll sell it to me." I know that he wouldn't have brought his crew with him if he planned to buy it. "Are these enemies?" "Yay." What's your offer?" I ask. "Oh," the man says, "I'm sure we can work something out." All the while the thugs approach, like big cats prowling close to prey. The sword glows with excitement, mesmerizing my enemies. "What are you waiting for?" it says. I'm afraid I can't take them all on as they draw their weapons. I can't take them all, I whisper to the blade. Can you? The sword wastes no time to yank my spirits out of the way and commandeers my body. A smile plays across my lips as the first thug strikes out with the short sword. The sword will parries the strike and draws a long laceration on the man's forearm. My muscles move in ways I never thought possible. I bend and twirl, my sword gaining momentum as I deflect attack and counterattack. Alarm spreads through the enemy as my body deftly defends itself. There are no fatalities yet, and the gang puts some distance between us. I can see hate in their eyes as they regroup. You're gonna pay for this, the boss spits at me. Oh, come on, I hear myself say. We've only just begun. Keep it up. All I see is hate as the gang leaves me. The sword will retreats from my body, and I resume control. Thanks. Oh, any time you want me to hold the reins, I'm only too happy to take over. I don't think I should stay in town another night. So, I need to finish my business quickly. You wanted a scabbard, right? The sword glows. Could you cut that out? The whole reason they came after me is because of your light show. I can only hope the scabbard will hide the glow when I'm around people. I find my way to the industrial sector, where the smiths run. I'm looking for a scabbard, I say to the burly shop owner. His eyes appraise the cloth-bound sword in my hand. I can let you try out a few, he says as he walks out from behind the counter. Next to a bin of swords, I see the sheaths. You can rummage through here to see if any of them fit. Thanks. That one, the sword says. Definitely that one. Or maybe that one. As the sword will tries to decide, I unfurl it and begin testing them out. Once I find one that fits, I leave the bin behind. Wait, hold on, damn it. I haven't decided yet. While the blade protests, I pay for the scabbard and sheath the blade. Do you have any whetstones and oil? The burly man nods and sees to my needs. The sword protests all these decisions being made without consulting it. I do my best to ignore the sword's incessant yammering and walk out into the twilight world. I won't get far in the dark, but I don't want to risk staying in town. Navigating the streets is like reflex to me. A pair of guards watch me curiously as I walk through the gate. I'm fairly confident I wasn't followed, and make camp a little ways off the beaten track. Fall into the void within, the sword coaches me. Expand your focus to the periphery. You find something if you go far enough. Just as the sword says, I find the constraints of my void. This is natural. Just reaffirm your vision of nothingness. Cast the construct away and allow your void to grow. The sword may be annoying at times, but it can prove a patient instructor. My meditation carries into the night, and I feel something swell up from within me. Night passes into day, and soon I am on the path. I'd been staying in this area for a few months, but my life is one of impermanence. You're headed home, Bear? I bite my cheek. No. Then the sword says, "Where are we going?" "Away." "Oh, come now, Bear. Surely you have some goal, some enemy." I don't have any enemies." The sword is silent for a moment. "Vengeance, then." I hold my silence while the sword carries on. I couldn't count all the bears I've had that sought revenge. I guess it's something human. I find myself tempted to leave the sword on the side of the road. "Do you ever shut up?" I spit. The sword laughs. "I mean no harm, but I can help you achieve your vengeance." The day passes, and the sword carrying on with promises. As night comes, I sit by a campfire. "Come on," it says. "Tell me." I feel my nerves frayed by the constant assault. I begin. "It's not an enemy." The sword perks up. "Come now, what haunts you?" I look at the blade. "Other than you?" "Oh, ha ha, tell me." I mull over my thoughts before expressing them. "It's not human," I hesitate. "It's something else." "There are lots of something else," the sword points out. What made it different?" I feel myself fall back in time. I was just a little kid, hiding in the bushes. My village, my home, was on fire. I remember, I say, it didn't have a body that I could see, a miasma of shadows. The sword glows from within its scabbard. A demon. I feel my head nod. "Well," the sword says, let's find and kill it." I smile a half smile. "You make it sound so simple." "Little mortal, I've been doing this for a long time. Revenge is what I live for." I put thoughts of vengeance out of mind as I let sleep take me. I may find the sword annoying at times, but I do find the company somehow comforting as I venture out into the world. The road is long as I seek out my next town. At the crossroads, I find a sign for 2 new paths. "We should go north," the sword says. "Why?" "I want to visit an old stomping ground of mine." I frown. "It's too cold." "Man up, boyo. Indulge me." I sigh as I follow the sword will's whim. Days pass as I hunt for my food. This is a lifestyle I've known for a long time. Eating wild game and sleeping under the stars. "How old are you?" I find myself asking one night. The sword is silent for a moment. "I was forged in the age of the first men, when humans were still the children of the gods. I couldn't count the ages I've seen come and go. Humanity changed. The elves and dwarves changed. It has grown more difficult as time passes for me to find a bearer worthy of me." The sword glows to show its pride. "This is one reason I want you to learn the secrets of immortality. Otherwise, I could be waiting a long time for another bearer. It's not particularly shocking. I just find myself wondering what it it, what it says, what it sees in me to call me worthy. What makes someone worthy? Oh, it's just a feeling. I let out a breath as I rest. Along my path, I come upon a village. The gazes are hostile as I walk through it. Before I reach the other side, I'm approached by a woman. Rather than enmity, I see desperation in her. "Are you an adventurer?" she asks with a trembling voice. I'd never really considered myself as such, but I can't deny the description. Yes. With shaky hands, she reaches into her clothes. Her fingers tremble as she offers me a silver coin and 4 copper pieces. "Please," she begs, "save my son." I begin. "Quest," the sword exclaims. "Accepted." I find myself caught up in the emotion on display. "What do you mean?" I ask, as I motion for the woman to put her money away. Her trembling mellows. "My son, all the children of our village have been taken by bandits." I bite my cheek. I don't make a habit of playing the hero, but I can't deny the tragedy in the woman's eyes. "Tell me more." Her voice steadies as she points me in the direction of an old tower to the east. "They've taken it as their base. The children were taken 2 days ago. Please, save them." I nod my head. "I'll try." "Try what?" the sword asks. "We're gonna mop the floor with these bandits." I ignore the sword will as I leave the village. The green plains expand to the horizon as I begin my search for this fortress in the middle of nowhere. The day passes as I realize that I am lost. "You're not good at this part of the job." "Shut it." "I'm just saying, you need to pay more attention to where you're going." Just as I begin to lose hope of fulfilling this quest, I see a lone stone tower in a sea of green. The sword glows with excitement. There is still time in the day, so I resolve myself to the assault. "Don't worry," the sword says. "I'll take over if you get in over your head." Part of me dislikes the blade's ability to take me over, but at the same time I'm not too experienced with fighting humans. My approach goes unnoticed as I find the door into the tower. Testing it confirms the bandit's lack of wisdom. The sword leads me as I enter the torchlit room. "When does the slaver get here?" I overhear a conversation from around a corner. "Tomorrow," another voice says. "We'll make good coin off of these runts." The blade's excitement casts light on the walls. "Who's there?" One of the voices barks. Recognizing my stealth ruined, I turn the corner to find 2 rugged-looking men coming to their feet. Cruel knives come out. "Nice sword," one says. "Toss it on the floor and we might let you live." "Come on," the sword moans. "Attack!" One of them comes at me directly while the other circles around. Finally, I attack the enemy before me. He parries my blow while the second one charges. A sense of vertigo comes over me as the sword takes over. The blade encounters the man in front and sails through the air to cut off the hands of the other. A loud scream reverberates on the walls as the bandit realizes he's lost his hands. The other has no time to worry about his friend as my body goes into a sequence of moves that lead to the sword being buried in his skull. The sword glows a blinding orange as I hear enemies descend the stairs. As they come, my body moves fluidly. Blood pools on the floor as the bodies multiply. Hot liquid runs down my face. My body is breathing heavily as it is returned to me. I feel sick. My breathing steadies and I swallow my vomit. That was amazing, the sword raves. I was like, whoosh, and they were like, ah! I was on fire. I don't critique the slaughter, I just move to the stairs. My legs are heavy as I reach the top. I can hear them before I see them, sniffling and tearful crying. As I stomp up to their level, I hear a shuffling. The cries grow more pronounced when I, covered in blood, come out before the captives. I wipe my face and look around the room. On a table, I see keys. I take them and begin unlocking the cages. The children pull back into the corners of their cages. It's all right. I try to appease them. I'm not going to hurt you. My words do nothing to convince them. Is there a Marty here? I look from face to face. Marty's mother gave me this. I pull out a small teddy bear. The eyes shift until one boy comes over and hesitantly reaches out to grab the toy. Marty looks from his bear to me. There is mistrust, but more than that, hope. One by one, the children leave their cages. On the table nearby is food the bandits had prepared. Ravenous appetites see the food disappear. It's getting late, but I don't want to see the slaver, so I get the party moving out. We arrive at the village at dusk, and families come out weeping. Marty's mother can barely contain herself as she pushes all of her money into my hands. Thank you, she says. Others echo her words, but none step forward with reward money. I bow my way out of the reunion and carry on with my journey north. You did good, bearer, the sword says, stirring me from my thoughts. But you did all the fighting. Yes, the sword glows. I was amazing. But, it says, you kept your composure. You did good not blowing chunks. Not for the first time I think about leaving the sword on the side of the road. We carry on until it grows too dark, and I find a place to rest.